They say people discover their true selves when they're far away from the world they know. I never thought I'd test that theory, but fate had other plans. The story of how I found unexpected love begins not in a city or a home, but on a deserted island where survival seemed impossible. And yet, it gave me everything I didn't know I needed. It started with a trip I never wanted to take. My friends had convinced me to join them on a sailing adventure. "It'll be fun," they said. "Just a week in the open sea, sun, and freedom." I wasn't much of an adventurer, but something about their excitement made me agree. I boarded the small yacht with a mix of fear and anticipation, never imagining how quickly everything would change. The first few days were beautiful: clear skies, sparkling waters, laughter echoing across the waves. But on the fourth night, the ocean turned against us. Storm clouds gathered with terrifying speed, and soon the yacht was being tossed like a toy. Rain pelted us, lightning tore through the sky, and the roar of the sea drowned out our voices. In the chaos, I was thrown overboard. The cold salt water swallowed me whole, dragging me down before I managed to fight my way to the surface. I screamed for help, but the boat was already vanishing in the storm. My body thrashed against the relentless waves, clinging to a piece of floating wood as exhaustion pulled me under. When I opened my eyes again, sunlight blinded me. I coughed and sputtered, tasting sand and salt. Somehow the waves had carried me to a beach. My body ached and my mind spun in disbelief. I was alive, but utterly alone, or so I thought. As I struggled to sit up, I noticed footprints in the sand. They weren't mine. Panic and relief collided in my chest. Someone else was here. With trembling legs, I followed the trail into the trees, where the sound of rustling leaves caught my attention. There, gathering coconuts beneath the towering palms, was a man. His clothes were torn, his hair unkempt, and his skin bronzed by the sun. He turned when he heard me, and his eyes widened in shock before softening with something I couldn't place: recognition of shared fate. "You're alive," he said, his voice rough but kind. I thought I was the only one. His name was Daniel. He had been on a different boat, shipwrecked weeks before. While I had just arrived, he already knew the rhythms of the island, where to find water, which fruits were safe to eat, and how to build shelter. Without him, I might not have survived the first night. At first, our partnership was purely practical. He taught me how to weave palm fronds into bedding, how to catch fish with makeshift spears, and how to signal with fire. I tried to contribute, though my clumsy attempts often ended with him laughing good-naturedly. "You'll get the hang of it," he reassured me each time. But survival wasn't just about food and shelter. It was about keeping hope alive. On nights when the stars blazed overhead, we'd sit by the fire and talk. He told me about his life before the island, how he'd been a photographer chasing sunsets across the globe. I shared stories of my quiet city life, my small apartment, my job that barely paid the bills. It struck me how different we were, yet how easily we connected in the silence of the island. Away from the noise of the world, we spoke honestly, without masks. Weeks turned into months. The island became both prison and home. Together, we learned to find beauty in small things: the sweet taste of ripe fruit, the comfort of a breeze on sweltering days, the laughter we shared when my clumsy spear attempts scared the fish away instead of catching them. Somewhere in that fragile balance between survival and despair, something deeper blossomed. It wasn't sudden, like the crash of a wave. It was gradual, like the tide slowly creeping up the shore. The way his eyes lit up when I laughed. The way he always saved the sweetest fruit for me without saying a word. The way I found comfort in his steady presence, even in silence. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in shades of gold and crimson, I realized I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living, and I wasn't alone. Daniel noticed my quietness and asked, "What are you thinking about?" I hesitated, then smiled. That I never thought being stranded would bring me something worth holding on to. He studied me, and for a moment the firelight flickered in his eyes. Neither did I. The unspoken truth hung between us. We were no longer just two castaways clinging to survival. We were two souls who had found each other in the most impossible place. But love on a deserted island was fragile. It existed outside reality, sheltered from the world's demands, And deep down, we both knew one day rescue might come, and we'd have to face what that meant. That day arrived sooner than expected. One morning, while scanning the horizon as we always did, Daniel froze. "Smoke," he whispered, pointing to a distant speck on the sea. A ship. My heart pounded. Rescue. The dream we had clung to for so long was finally real. But instead of pure joy, I felt a pang of fear. Rescue meant leaving the island and leaving this life we had built together. When the ship's crew found us, they embraced us like miracles. Food, blankets, and voices filled the silence we had grown used to. Yet as we sat side by side on the deck, watching the island shrink into the horizon, I felt a lump in my throat. "What happens now?" I asked quietly. Daniel didn't answer immediately. He stared at the horizon, then turned to me with the same steady gaze that had anchored me since the first day we met. "Now," he said softly, "we find out if love can survive beyond an island." It wasn't easy. Back in the city, the noise, the rush, the distractions of modern life pressed down on us. People looked at us curiously when we explained how we met. Some didn't understand it at all. But what mattered wasn't their understanding. It was ours. Because the truth is, the island stripped us down to our bare selves. We had seen each other at our most vulnerable, our most raw, our most human. And from that, love had grown, not out of convenience, but out of something real, something undeniable. Now, whenever life gets overwhelming, we remind each other of those days, of the sunsets we watched from the beach, the laughter we shared under the stars, the fragile but unbreakable bond we formed when survival forced us to trust. I went to sea expecting nothing more than an adventure. Instead, I found myself stranded on an island, fighting to survive. But more importantly, I found Daniel. I found love. And sometimes I wonder if the storm wasn't a curse at all, but a gift, because it carried me not just to an island, but to the unexpected love that changed everything.